Hi friends, welcome back to All Things Kitchen. My name is Jennifer and welcome if you're new here. If you're not new, thank you so much for coming back. I am back in my kitchen today. I know last time I was here, I was actually in my son and daughter-in-law's kitchen, but we are back home and I would say rested and refreshed from vacation, but the first week back to work is always a little bit hectic. So, plus it was a different time zone there. So getting back on my time zone, it's been a little bit tiring week. But today we are going to be making granola. It's been quite a while since I've made granola. We've made granola bars previously with a base recipe that was very similar to the granola that I like. But this is just plain granola, not granola bars. So I am going to be halving this recipe. I will put the full recipe down below. It is a fairly large recipe. It calls for 3 cups of oats, the full recipe, but I'm only going to do half today because I just don't need that much right now. The nice thing about this base recipe, it's my recipe. I don't even remember where I got the recipe from, but I have tweaked it over the years. There are things that I change up all the time. I put different ingredients in if I have something that I want to try, or take something out if I don't have it. So that's the nice thing about this recipe, is it is very flexible and you can put in what you like in your granola. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you down. I have just about everything out here on the counter with me. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to get my oven preheated to 300 degrees. So while that is preheating, I'm going to bring you down and we will get started on mixing everything up. The first thing that I am going to add in here is 1.5 cup of, I'm just using old-fashioned oats. That's what I like to use. So, and I'm not going to be real exact. I'm just going to use this 1 cup scoop, which actually does have markings and little lines on the inside. So, but if it's not exact, that's okay. I'm just using 1.5 cups of those oats. Also going to be adding slivered almonds. You could use whole almonds, you could use pecans, walnuts, if there's a particular nut that you like. We like almonds here. Now the full recipe calls for 1 cup. I am just going to use all that I have, which is about 3/4 of a cup. We really like nuts here in this house. And there's no sense in leaving an 1/8 of a cup in the bag. After that, I like coconut in mine. I'm using sweet coconut flakes, and that again would be about 1/2 cup with this half recipe. And I'm going to add, also I have some wheat germ, and this is just good for nutrition. So I'm going to add about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of wheat germ. And I need brown sugar. So I need 1/2 of a 1/3 of a cup. So 1/2 of a 1/3 of a cup is 1/6 of a cup. Obviously, I don't have measuring cup for 1/6 of a cup, so I just used 1/4 of a cup measuring cup and just put a little bit less than 1/4 of a cup. And then salt. I need 1/4 teaspoon, which I'm just going to put a couple pinches in there for 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm just going to mix these ingredients up, and then we will mix our wet ingredients. And I'm also going to be doing an experiment for you. So I like my granola clumpy, and I want to show you how I get those results. And I also kind of want to do an experiment with how much, because I use egg white to do that, and I want to do an experiment with how much egg white I use. So half, I'm not going to use any egg white, and so that will be a very loose granola, very separate pieces. It would be just like this, almost, but baked. And the other, as we cook it, it will clump. So in this bowl, I'm going to combine. Now, here is where your sweetener can vary. You can use, now I already have a little bit of brown sugar in there, but you can use maple syrup or honey. You could probably, if you like agave, you could use that. I don't particularly care for agave. I usually use maple syrup in this recipe, but I had a new flavor of honey that I wanted to try in here. We just recently bought this when we went to go visit our daughter, and I really like it. So I'm going to try it with the wildflower honey. Normally we use orange blossom honey, but we're going to be doing wildflower. And this will be, if I can get my lid off, it's stuck on there good. About 1/8 of a cup of honey or maple syrup. I've had flavored maple syrup, like pecan flavored maple syrup. Well, I'm just making a mess here. Just looking off to the side. Should have put my oil in here first and measured that, and that may have helped the honey come out a little bit cleaner, but I think it came out okay. And then the same amount of, recipe calls for canola oil. I have used canola oil in the past. Today I'm using avocado oil. It's mainly what I have. So that is what I'm going to use. Just, you want a neutral flavored oil. So I'm just cleaning off this measuring spoon. I'm going to set this in the sink. Well, technically that was a measuring cup. And I'm just going to blend these together a little bit. Now I have an egg that's been sitting out at room temperature. I may need to actually stick that in a little bit of warm water. It's been out for a little bit, but it was so warm in my kitchen I turned the ceiling fan on, and now it's not as warm, so the egg's not really coming up to temperature. Now I also put cranberries. Sometimes I put raisins. I actually have some dates today that I'm going to add in here. In the past, I have put them in at this stage and baked with it, with the cranberries or the raisins or whatever I decide to use. But this time I'm going to leave those out. So I'm playing with recipes like that to find the best way of what you like, how you like something done. And I'm bringing you guys along with my recipe testing today, and we'll see. I know most recipes call to put like the cranberries in at the end and the raisins so that they don't get too dried out because they're already dried. But I've always put them in and baked them with it, and I didn't think they were too dry, but I'm going to try this one without doing that. So I have that, and I'm going to put my egg, it's just a little chilled. I'm going to put it in a little bit of warm water, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've given this a little bit of time, brought it up to temperature a little bit more. Hold on. And I'm going to put the egg white in here. And I'm just going to save the egg yolk in there. And I will probably use that the next time I make bread, just to top my bread with. So I'm going to whip this a little bit, and I'm not going to talk while I'm doing this because it might be too loud. I'm just looking for something frothy like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is put half of this bowl onto my baking sheet, my cookie sheet that I have lined with parchment paper. Let's see here. Get some light on the subject. So I just want to blend this just a little bit more. I'm getting my hands in there just so that moisture will get through all of the oats. And I will be putting dates and cranberries. You know what? No, the dates are already dry. Let's do a real test. So we'll put some. We'll put some in half, and so I will bake both with and without. So I'll put some in here. Just kind of blend this together a little bit. And I'm just going to spread this out. These are already clumped together pretty well. This will be the non-clumping side. And then we'll come back over here. With this frothy egg white. We're not looking to make a meringue out of it or anything. I just want it a little bit frothy. And I'm going to add this in. To the other part of my granola. Now, normally I use 1 egg white for a full recipe, and this is actually, this right here is a quarter recipe because I only made half and I put half on the tray already. So that was kind of the experiment I wanted to do, is thinking I wanted to add more egg white to the granola so that it will clump together a little bit more than what I normally get. So let's move this over here. My oven is at temperature now, so we will just get this on the tray. And this is going to bake for about 40 minutes. It may be a little bit less since I only did half a recipe and it's so spread out. But I'm just going to keep my eye on it and see. And then we'll add dates and more cranberries when this is all done. So we'll just do that. It looks delicious. I'm excited. I haven't had granola in a while. So that's what I have. This has the egg white. This does not. This has the cranberries. This does not. So I want to see the difference, taste the difference in the cranberries after this is baked. And then when I add the fresh dried cranberries, if you will. So we'll go ahead and get this in the oven. And like I said, it's set at 300 degrees. And we'll do that for about 40 minutes. So I have that in the oven and I set the timer for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, I want to check it, see how it's doing, and probably give it a little bit of a stir. The side with the egg white, I want to be careful how I stir that up, agitate it, flip it, because I do want that to be more in clumps than individual pieces, like the one without the egg whites. But I do want to be able to kind of turn pieces of it so that it will get brown on both sides. While that's cooking, I'm going to get this cleaned up a little bit, and then I have a little bit of food prep that I need to do that I'm going to bring you along for, because I need you to see how many tomatoes have come out of my garden. Do you know what I did? My husband just told me he wanted Cheerios in the granola, and I forgot to put them in. So I'm going to grab them out real quick. Now it's in the oven for good to cook. So now I'm going to finish cleaning up my mess and bring the tomatoes over here to prep them. Be right back. These are the tomatoes that I am pulling out of the garden right now. I have them in the clamshells. These were the strawberry containers from when I bought the strawberries. I also have some little sweet peppers coming in. These are sweet. I think there's some down below one of these that I need to pull out. But as you can see, these all still have the stems on them. So what I need to do, I need to destem these and rinse them off. They've come straight in from the garden. I've not rinsed them off at all. And I'm going to take the stem off, rinse them off, put them on a tray, stick them in a freezer for a little bit. At least the ones that are super ripe, because I'm not going to get to them in time. I won't be able to eat all those tomatoes before they go bad. So what I did last year was I froze them, and they're great to use in like the feta tomato pasta dish that went viral a couple of years ago. I do make that quite often, and freezing these strawberries, it works beautifully. Tomatoes, it works beautifully for, as well as maybe putting it in an omelet or a breakfast skillet, frittata, any kind of pan sauce that maybe you want fresh tomatoes in. These, when they're super ripe, and that's the perfect time to freeze them, you know, using them in a dish, obviously you're not going to be able to eat them fresh, eat them just straight, but putting them in a dish, these work beautifully. And the size of these are perfect. And some of these are at the point where they're getting ready to go bad if I don't do something with them. This is very, very soft. But these are so delicious and so sweet. And sometimes they don't make it into the container. That is just a burst of sweetness. It's so good. I highly recommend, if you don't grow even full-size strawberries, keep calling them strawberries, tomatoes. If you like tomatoes at all, grow some cherry tomatoes. They're so prolific. These actually started off as Everglade tomatoes, and they have cross-pollinated with other tomato plants so that they are a little bit larger. Everglades are pretty small. Some of them in here, I'm looking. I think I've shown you some before. Just Here we go. So difference in size. Here we go. Difference in size. So you can see this is like an Everglade tomato, and this is a hybrid of that Everglade tomato that the bees have pollinated from other tomatoes. So they get big difference. Maybe there's a little bit easier. So, but the Everglades start off really small, but even if you grow one other tomato plant, your pollinators will cross-pollinate, and so that they will get a little bit bigger. But even if not, them being this small is perfectly fine. They're so prolific. It's almost like a weed here in Florida. They just grow and grow and grow until the heat wipes them out. So I'm going to bring you down. I am just simply going to, I have my salad spinner here. I'm just going to put these de-stemmed tomatoes in, and we will get these rinsed. And I'm going to put them on a tray, like I said, on like a cookie tray, and freeze them a little bit individually so that they don't all clump together and freeze in one big clump. And right now I'm only picking the ones, well, I'm going to rinse them all. I'm going to go ahead and de-stem and rinse them all so that the next time I have to do this, they're already de-stemmed, except for any that come in from the garden afterwards. But I'm only going to freeze the ones that are super red, super ripe, because like I said, I'm just not going to get to them in time. And I've already got some I see down here that are going bad. So now you may be wondering why I don't just take the stem off when I'm out in the garden. Why not just pull these straight from the plant when I bring them in? Number one, a lot of times during the week, I am running out to my garden on a quick work break. So I may only have 10 minutes or so to go out and quickly harvest the tomatoes that are out there. And number two, if I'm in a hurry and not being very careful, then something like this is exactly what happens when you go to pull the stem off and it grabs a hold of a piece of the skin there, and it just kind of tears it. And I try not to do that. I try to be really careful so that I don't get any splits, because I don't want to freeze something like that. I want nice, pristine tomatoes when I'm preserving them. If something like that happens out in the garden when I do try to take it from the plant, it usually just ends up in my mouth. Then I just eat it. So in order to be quick and efficient when I'm out there, because I can't take too much time from work, like I said, just like my 10-ish minute break when I'm going out there. And a lot of times I'm going out there to do more than just harvest tomatoes, but if that's all that needs to be done, then that's all I'm doing. But if I need to water something as well, then I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time trying to harvest these tomatoes. And that one's gross. So the timer just went off at the 20-minute mark. Oh, I'm going to take these out and give them a look. This is the side with the egg white. This is the side without the egg white. Get a spatula here, and I'm just going to give this a little stir. And it's warm. It's starting to get some little overly brown bits, so I don't think that's going to be able to go the full 40 minutes. This one, I'm going to flip like this while trying to do this with the camera. Okay, I'm gonna get that back in the oven, probably only for about another 10 to 15 minutes. I'll put the timer on 10 minutes and we'll look at it from there. This is where I'm at with my tomatoes. So I'm getting quite a bit done here. I only have this last one. This is what I picked this morning. So I only have this one last one to do. Okay, so I got all the tomatoes destemmed and I'm going to go rinse them. These were the ones that I needed to pick out of there. A couple did get thrown directly into the trash, but these, well, I can probably munch on today. And I probably threw away 6 or 7, maybe 8 tomatoes. So out of all of that, this large container of tomatoes, 6, 7, 8, I'm okay with that loss. But now I get to prepare these for preservation and get them in my freezer so I don't lose any more. I'm gonna go rinse these. I'll be right back. This I'm just going to stick into the freezer for maybe about 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'll be able to put them in a Ziploc bag. The timer's getting ready to go off for the granola, and I think it's pretty much done. So I'm going to pull it out of the oven and we'll take a look together. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. It is very warm outside. I don't know how warm, but I know I was out there first thing this morning working on the garden, and now it's midday, so I definitely don't need the oven on. I'm going to put a timer on this for about 20 minutes to let this come down to room temp. I'll go ahead and move it off of the top of the stove top where it's real warm over here and have it over here on the countertop. Once this cools, then I'll go ahead and add my the rest of my cranberries and dates and mix this all up. And I'm going to put this into mason jars to store. And I'll be able to seal the one that I'm not working out of. So I can put this into a couple of different mason jars and go ahead and vacuum seal in the lids to keep it all fresh. It does store wonderfully in a zip storage bag or any kind of airtight container. It just stores wonderfully. And I've had granola like up to 4 to 5 weeks. if it's been a slow time. But this is only a half batch, so we should go through this probably within a week, 2 tops. But I wanted something to snack on that was a little bit healthier than, like, we ran to our local donut shop the other day for breakfast and then had donuts for a couple of days. So we don't need donuts all the time. Granola is nice and healthy, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to let this cool down, and I'll bring you back when we go to package it up. So the granola has cooled down, and I'm going to go ahead and mix it all into one bowl. And if you haven't learned this about me yet, I evidently like to dirty up every bowl in my kitchen whenever I make any. My husband's laughing. Whenever I make anything. But I'm going to bring you down here and show you the difference between the one that I added the egg white to and the one I did not add the egg white to before I blend them together. So this right here is very loose. You can see individual pieces. There's just a little bit of clumping that it's doing, but it breaks up fairly easily, and by even just putting it into the container, it's going to break apart very, very easily. I mean, I'm putting no pressure on this whatsoever, and it's just breaking apart. Whereas this over here, you can see we have bigger clumps, and it does take a little bit more pressure to break these apart. And I like the bigger clumps when I'm making granola. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in a bowl just to blend it. I'm going to break the bigger pieces up just a little bit, just so it'll get into my jar a little bit more. Now, like I said before, I put these in the oven. I do have some cranberries and some dates I want to add to this. So I want to see the difference between having a cranberry that is baked to one that is not. And so I'm going to taste these. It's very chewy, the one that's baked. But it still has good flavor. But it is a little tougher. The one that's not baked is definitely softer. It's a sweeter flavor. These are definitely sweeter, not baked, than baked. This has more depth of flavor. This is sweeter. So actually a combination of both would be really good, which is what I'm going to do. And I may do that from now on in the future, is have a combination of both. And then I just had some dates left over from a recipe that I did a while ago, and I can't get my lid off with my fingers, so let's see. These are pretty sweet. So I'm just putting in about a quarter of a cup of those, quarter a cup to a third of a cup, because they're pretty sweet. And that's my granola. It's beautiful. It's tasty. I'm going to go wash my hands. So I have a 1.5 pint jar here. I think that'll be a perfect serving size. Since I just washed my hands, I am going to grab something to spoon this in, and it's mainly so I can have more dirty dishes, I guess. So I'm thinking I'll get about 3 of these jars. So there's one. And yeah, I'll go ahead. It probably would fit into a pint jar, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in this since this is what I had out. So yeah, this one gave me about 1.5 cups. So this would have fit into a pint jar, but I'm okay with putting it in there. This one I'm not going to seal because I'll eat out of this one first since it's not a full one. These I am going to seal because I won't be eating out of these for at least a couple of days. Okay, so the tomatoes have been in the freezer for about 30 minutes. They're very chilled. They're not frozen yet, but they're also a lot of the moisture that was on them is off. So I'm going to go ahead and take my reusable silicone Ziploc bags and I'm going to put these the easiest way in the bag. This bag is a gusseted bag, so even though it's a little bit smaller than this one, it will probably hold about the same amount since it's gusseted on the bottom. Okay, so we have everything done that we're doing today. I have my tomatoes bagged up to put in the freezer. I have a few left over that I'm putting in the refrigerator, as well as my sweet peppers. So I'm going to close that up and put those in the fridge. And I have my multiple jars of granola. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today as I just spent some time in my kitchen preparing a little bit of snack food, doing a little food preservation. Appreciate you coming along and keeping me company. I hope you had a great day. I hope you had a great week. And I'll see you next time. Take care, friends.